Hey guys, welcome back. We are doing lesson 7 for animals of the freshwater habitat. Before we get going, I want to go over some vocabulary words that we're going to be seeing throughout this lesson. So the first word we're going to look at is amphibious. Amphibious. And amphibious means able to live both on land and in water. Example, our frog tank has areas of dry land and water for swimming because frogs are amphibious. Next word, freshwater, is water that is not salty. Example, every summer our family goes to a freshwater pond to swim. Fresh water. Float, to stay or move slowly on top of the water without sinking underwater. Example, the children watch their toy boats float in the bathtub. Gills, the part of a body that fish and other underwater animals use to breathe. Example, when we went to the aquarium, we saw the trout's large gills on the side of its body and it swam by. All right, now remember, a globe shows land and water. All right, that makes up our planet Earth. And on a globe, the large bodies of water are shown in blue. I want you to try to remember to name all the different habitats that we've learned about so far. So what kind of habitats have we studied? Well, we've talked about the Arctic tundra, the Arctic Ocean, the Sonoran Desert, the East African savanna, the temperate deciduous forest, and the rainforest. So we've talked about 6 different places so far. And today we're going to talk a little bit about a different habitat. It's the freshwater habitat, and you see a lot of it around here. Okay, so let's think about habitats. What does a habitat have to have? It has to have food, water, and shelter. Okay, so we're going to learn about a freshwater habitat. Freshwater is water that does not have much salt in it at all. And often the water is able to let us drink from it. Freshwater habitat is different from water found in the Arctic Ocean because that is salt water. And the water that's found in oceans is salty. So you're going to learn more about saltwater habitats in the next lesson, but today we're going to talk about freshwater habitats. So I'm going to show you a picture. I'm going to share my screen. Okay, let me put it present mode here. Okay, there. All right. So you see this illustration that shows different kinds of freshwater habitats, such as rivers, streams, lakes, and ponds. Can you think of any examples of freshwater habitats in your area? Think about where you live or close to your house. What do you see around? Good. You probably see ponds and lakes and rivers. Some of you probably take your boats out to the lake, or you may go and walk down by the lake, or you may have a pond on your property, or maybe at your grandparents' house. Okay. Well, we're also going to learn about plants and animals that live in and around fresh water. So today I want you to listen for the different kinds of plants and animals that are found in freshwater habitat. Hello again. Glad you could join me. I thought that we needed a real change, so I've come off dry land to a place where it's wet all the time, a lake. A lake is an area of water that is surrounded by land. Now, if something is surrounded by land, it has land all around it. There is a lot of water in the world. In fact, water covers most of the Earth's surface, but only a tiny part of the world's water is fresh water, the kind of water you and I can drink because it has very little salt in it. Fresh water is found in streams, rivers, lakes, and ponds. The water in these streams, rivers, lakes, and ponds comes from rain and from melting ice and snow. Isn't it amazing to think that the water from the drinking fountain at school or from the faucets in your own homes all come from rain? I am here at the water's edge, means the water's side, to explore this lake and the plants and animals that call this freshwater habitat home. Freshwater habitats have many kinds of fish, birds, insects, and other animals standing here. I can see an enormous, meaning very big leaf in the water. Let me climb onto it so we can get a closer look. This is a water lily leaf. And you can see it right here in our slideshow. Those are the water lily leaves. A water lily is a plant that lives in water near the edges of ponds and lakes. Plants are important in freshwater habitats because they make oxygen for animals to breathe. Plants are also food for the animals to eat, and they can provide shelter to protect animals from their predators. Remember, a predator is an animal that hunts other animals. The leaves of the water lilies are very large, round, and green, and they float on the surface of the water. Now, if they float on the surface of the water, that means they stay on top of the water. They don't sink. The water lily is well adapted for living in this habitat. Like the kapok trees in the rainforest, the lily's large leaves let it get as much sunlight as it needs for food and energy. Lilies are also food for many animals, believe it or not. Animals like deer, porcupine, beavers, and turtles all eat the leaves, whereas ducks and geese like to eat the roots. Some animals like fish and frogs use the lily leaves as hiding places, and the flowers bring bees and other insects. I'm going to float around the edge of the lake on this water lily leaf, but I'm going to have to leave soon because this pesky turtle will not leave my leaf alone. Now I've pushed out from the edge of the lake just a little, and already I can see another kind of plant that lives here. It's called a cattail, and it gets its name from an unusual way it looks. Thankfully for me, it doesn't have much to do with real cats. Cattails have long, thin stems with foot-long, furry flower spikes at the top that turn from green in the early summer to brown in the fall. The flower spike feels soft and furry and looks a little like a cat's tail, but I think it looks more like a hot dog. Can you see it up here in the corner? What do you think it looks like? I think it looks like a corn dog on a stick. Let's see here. The plants can reach up to 9 feet in height, which lets them get as much sunlight as they need. As with water lilies, some animals use cattails for food and shelter. Muskrats and geese like to eat the roots of the cattail, and the juicy shoots are a favorite of moose and elk. Now, moose and elk are like caribou. They're part of the deer family. Many kinds of birds make their homes among the cattails. It's very hard to see anything in there because cattails grow so thickly, so it's a good place for birds to build their nests and to lay and hatch their eggs. Predators, however, like snakes and frogs, also live among the cattails and search for animals like birds and insects for food. I think I'm going to move on now. As you know, I'm not very good with snakes. Come with me beneath the water and let's take a look at what's under here. Here are some nice looking rainbow trout. They can only live in water, and they breathe underwater using gills on the sides of their bodies. Gills take in oxygen from the water around them. Fish have strong tails that they use for swimming and fins that they use for steering and balance. The rainbow trout is a carnivore. A carnivore is an animal that eats other animals. It eats other water animals like insects, other fish, and sometimes shellfish. It even eats some small land animals like mice if it gets a chance. So I'm sure it wouldn't mind a nibble of rat. Rainbow trout like to live in rivers, but some prefer the deeper water of big lakes. I enjoyed exploring beneath the surface of the water, and now I'm going to rest on a lily pad again. While I'm drying off a bit, let me show you a kind of frog called a bullfrog that I can see sitting at the water's edge. Frogs are amphibious, which means they live both in the water and on land. Bullfrogs are the largest kind of frog found in North America, and they can grow more than half a foot long and weigh more than a pound. That's really a big frog. The bullfrog gets its name from the loud cow-like noise it makes. A male cow is called a bull. What sound does a cow make? Moo. I bet birds and turtles would be pretty surprised to know that a frog can make such a loud sound. Pretty neat, huh? This bullfrog is resting now, but it will come out to hunt when it gets dark. Bullfrogs eat a lot of different kinds of food. They are carnivores, so they eat small fish, snakes, birds, and insects like this dragonfly that's buzzing about my head. Adult dragonflies are flying insects with long bodies and wings. Dragonflies live around lakes, streams, and other freshwater habitats because they lay their eggs in water. Adult dragonflies eat other insects like mosquitoes, flies, and bees. The dragonfly uses its long wings to hover, meaning to stay in one place while it flies, around in the air where it catches its food. It has to be careful because the bullfrog isn't the only one that likes to eat dragonflies. Birds and turtles like them too. The water is getting a little rough out here. Ah, that's why. Here come some birds that like to eat insects. This is a kind of duck called a mallard. Ducks are birds that can live both in and out of water, but it's the water where they spend their time. Like all birds, ducks like these mallards are covered in feathers. Did you know that ducks' feathers are waterproof? Meaning that it keeps the water out. Ducks rub a special oil from their tails all over their feathers. Because oil and water don't mix, water just drips right off those ducks without getting their feathers wet. Ducks float on the surface of the water and have large webbed feet to help them paddle. They dip their heads under the water and use their beaks, which are called beaks, to search for food at the bottom of the lake. Now, this word bills refers to the duck's beak. The word bills can also refer to a piece of paper money. Mallards eat grasses and seeds from plants, small animals like insects, worms, snails, frogs, and fish. Well, we've had a good look around the freshwater habitat, but I have to get off this lily leaf before these ducks knock me off. There's another kind of water habitat, and we're going to have to look at it next time. I hope you'll join me. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to start my long trip back to shore. Okay. I'm going to stop sharing. There we are. All right, guys, what'd you think of that? That was kind of cool, huh? So how could you describe a freshwater habitat? Well, it's very wet, isn't it? And has lots of different green plants, different types of animals that live there. Okay. Can you name me an example of a freshwater habitat? Rivers, great. Streams, lakes, and ponds. Awesome. So most of the Earth's water, freshwater or saltwater? It's saltwater. Lots of salty water. What are some plants that live in a freshwater habitat? Water lilies and cattails. Yes. What kind of animals live in freshwater habitats? Turtles and ducks and bullfrogs and insects, rainbow trout, excuse me, beavers, deer. We could just keep going on and on, can't we? What carnivore did we learn about today in our lesson that lives in the freshwater habitat? Rainbow trout and bullfrogs. Both of them are carnivores. Yes. And what about an omnivore that we learned about today? Now remember, an omnivore eats both meat and plant. And that would be the duck. Yes, the duck. What nocturnal animal lives in the freshwater habitat? It's the bullfrog. It's nocturnal, comes out in the evenings. Great job, guys. Until next time, bye.